welcome to episode 56 of Mo Money, the investing economics show for millennials by a millennial, where our goal is to educate, entertain, and empower a new generation of investors. I am the creator, the writer, the producer, the editor, and of course the host, MC Mo. Let's get this show on the road. When Trump is not continually blaming crooked Hillary for losing the election, complaining about those son of a bitch anthem kneelers or whatever irrelevant BS is on the mind of the far from average 71-year-old dotard Trump, he manages to find time to tweet about tax reform. Tax reform was a relatively big part of his platform behind things like locking her up and building the wall and repealing everything Obama ever did. Now, there's not enough out on the reform plan because Trump and his people are not very big on things like details and how things actually are gonna work. Imagine Henry Ford describing a car like, you got a small carriage, you put the engine in, you add some wheels, I call it a Ford, it's the best and fastest thing that will ever exist. That's the type of vague stupidity that you get with this administration, but as law of power 48 states, assume formlessness, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, your hands can't hit, what your eyes can't see, that type of thing. But there is one part of the forthcoming tax reform that has been leaked, and that is the plan to cap contributions of 401ks to as low as $2,400 a year. What does this mean for investors? What does this mean for average Americans? Most importantly, what does this mean for you? Now, a brief history, the 401k was invented in the mid-70s by employees of a few large companies, eventually became law in the Revenue Act of 1978. The 401ks allow employees to invest in their retirement accounts with pre-taxed income. That doesn't mean you are not taxed at all, but that you will get taxed when you finally withdraw the money at whatever your current tax bracket would be, including the withdrawal amount. You cannot start withdrawing your money until you are 59 and a half years old. So if you're not working and you withdraw $5,000, you're only taxed 10% of that. If your income is $35,000, you get taxed at 15%. But if you add your $5,000 withdrawal, you move up to the 25% tax bracket. If you wait until you're 70 years old, then you can withdraw your money tax-free. So obviously this type of retirement account has its benefits. Your returns of your pre-tax dollars invested in a 401k plan, which is of course invested in the market, will increase in value much more than they will investing in savings account at your bank. A large majority of companies also match employees' contribution up to a certain point. So if you invest 6% of your salary, most companies will match that 6%, which seems like a really nice thing of them to do. But in reality, most companies just pay employees less money to make up for this generous benefit. So it's like, would you rather get paid $47,000 with a 401k or $50,000 and get no 401k? Most people would prefer the former. Now recently, Republican Kevin Brady, Tom's extremely less popular and less loved brother, announced that in the tax reform bill, they may look to cap contributions at $2,400. How big of a cut is that? Well, the current maximum contribution to a 401k is $18,000, so that is about an 86% decrease in possible contribution, which is a lot. Everybody knows that the 401k plan has been a great investment vehicle for the middle class to save for retirement. To put such a low limit on 401ks is essentially the biggest middle finger to the middle class. The average employee making between $10,000 to $25,000 who are eligible for a 401k save on average $3,200, which is well above the rumored cap limit. There are other types of retirement accounts like the Roth IRA, which you fund with post-tax dollars and can take out tax-free once you do retire. But let's be honest, normal people are not the best at saving. It's hard to help people see why they should take $5,000 from their bank account and invest it in a retirement account. People are too worried about the right now. They don't see the $5,000 annual contribution being compounded for 30 years and eventually turning into $1 million when they retire. They see that $5,000 that could help them pay for repairs to their homes, pay for their kids' school, pay for their car repairs, normal expenses of everyday life. Also, they could spend that money on stupid stuff like new cars, new clothes, vacations, buying bigger houses, a bunch of stuff that they don't need, etc. The point being, 401k was an optional retirement plan that most people chose to opt into, and it has worked and it has helped people save a substantial amount for retirement. So what is the reason that Trump is trying to bring the AK to the 401k? Well, most likely it is because politicians behind Trump's tax plans know one thing. With all these talks about cut to taxes, but little to no talk about cuts to spending, the government is going to need to make up for revenue somewhere. So how are they going to do it? Will they make corporations pay more taxes? Of course not. They're going to cut their tax rates. But won't these huge tax cuts for the corporations result in increased spending and investments and higher wages for employees? Most likely, no. The markets are not highly competitive like they once were, so there is less need for investments to make themselves more competitive. So with all that said, Where is the money going to come from? Well, it looks like the GOP has been flirting with the idea of taking that money directly from the pockets of the middle-class retirement savers. The less tax-deferred income that people can stash away in a 401k, the more income that the government can tax. The more money the government can tax, the more money they can use that revenue for whatever asinine things that Trump is planning to spend money on in his budget, like a wall or increased spending on our military budget. Definitely not things like helping veterans or spending money on useful infrastructure like roads, bridges, stuff like that. After the rumor leaked, Trump came out and denied that there would be any change to the 401k and that it will stay. But taking Trump's word is about as reliable as the New York City subway. Sure, it may be safe now, but that could all change in a matter of hours, and he could choose to cap it if members of the party demanded it. If people still wisely choose to invest, they will likely seek more risky assets in order to find the returns that they will need for retirement. The pre-tax dollars allow people to invest more money towards their retirement. Thus, they can invest more prudently than you would if you did not have this nest of money. If you enforce investors out of safe retirement accounts like the 401k and make them search for returns elsewhere, then they are going to invest in more risky investments or force them to work for longer. So either you can invest your post-tax dollars in safe investments and risk not having enough money upon retiring, or you can invest in riskier assets like Puerto Rican bonds or triple leverage ETFs. But in the search for higher returns comes higher risk. So yeah, those triple leverage ETFs may help you meet the returns you need, but they could also completely blow up your retirement account and you may end up having nothing. On top of that, if investors are forced out of 401ks but choose to still play it safe when it comes to investing, then they will be forced to postpone retirement for further down the road. So the attack on 401k basically has two likely results. One, investors take on unnecessary risk that is absolutely unsuitable for the average investors. Or two, people are forced to work longer into their lives, both of which I would describe as a worst case scenario. Best case scenario is people take all the risk and somehow it pays off. That's highly unlikely because then it wouldn't be considered risky. Bottom line is this: our nation has a spending problem, especially our government. Cutting taxes, it's very appealing, especially if it's done right, meaning lower class and middle class Americans actually benefit from it and get more money in their pockets. The problem is when governments choose to talk about cutting taxes, they never choose to equally cut spending. Instead, they bring up this myth of trickle-down economics that the economy will make up for it as long as everybody keeps spending, but it never works. They always just end up spending more and running up the deficit, putting us deeper into debt. This proposal to cap 401ks is especially egregious because although they are calling for tax cuts, they would be proposing to cut one of the best tax benefits that has ever existed. As if our generation is not struggling enough to begin investing for retirement, now we have the worst president ever trying to make it harder. But if he thinks that I'm going to take this sitting down, he's got another thing coming down. Thank you so much for watching another episode. You can find new and classic episodes of Mo Money right here on YouTube. For now, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, like me on Facebook.
Mo Money, signing out.
So I keep one eye open like CPS. You see me stressed, right? Can I live? Can I live?